Your 20s are not for solving everything. It can't go wrong, it can only go certain types of right. Is this too many pom-poms? I'm sure somebody in the comments will clear that up for me without me needing to come to a conclusion myself. Hello, if you haven't been here before, welcome to my channel. My name's Lena and I have a series on my channel called the 20s Toolkit where I talk about things that I wish I'd known in my 20s at the unripe age of 32. I'm gonna put my hands up and say I've got some regrets. Not about this jumper, oh no, but about how I approached my 20s. In this episode, as it is October, the spooky season, I wanted to talk about being scared of entering your 20s, or while you're in your 20s being so aware that you're in your 20s and that this is supposed to be your developmental sweet spot kind of time when you're supposed to come into yourself and know what's going on in the world and not miss any opportunity. It's freaking stressful, and I've started applying some techniques and principles in my later 20s and early 30s that I wish, where would I have been if I'd had these techniques in my early 20s? Probably here, but probably less stressed than I had needed to be for that 10 years leading up to this moment. So I'm going to share 3 of those strategies with you today. The first one is a chaos flowchart. There could be chaos in your future. It's true. And instead of living in this hazy mindset of all the awful things that could happen and what they could extrapolate into, having a best case and worst case scenario flowchart of what might happen if those things materialized has made me a lot calmer, especially when there's stuff out of your control and I don't know, you're living through a recession or a pandemic or what seems to be the beginnings of global upheaval everywhere. Over the past few years I've drawn myself several flowcharts exactly like this and stuck them on the fridge, so whenever I am panicking or worried about what's going to come next, I have a flowchart of if this happens then I will do this, if this happens then I could do this, and it reminds you that when you are in that flow state of actually trusting yourself, or you're in a survival mode where you're actually thinking clearly, you can be trusted probably to come up with some solutions that will bring some of the shit floating up and smelling like roses. I'll show you some examples. So this is obviously entirely dependent on my situation and my circumstances, but you can extrapolate and imagine and apply to your own. What would happen if I failed my first year of uni? There was definitely a time I was scared about this. I could have restarted the year, been top of the class to rebuild my confidence because I'd already have read some of the books from last year. I imagine if I'd failed first year it kind of would have been because I was also learning how to live in a new country and make new friends and get to know a new town, so I wouldn't have any of that, and I also would understand the skeleton of the course and probably be way better at it the second time I did it and really rebuild my confidence. Because I would have repeated that year, I might be even better at second and third year because I had the basics drilled into me for 2 years and absolutely smash my degree more than if I hadn't failed. I could have realised that that degree wasn't actually for me at all and found a better fit, picked a different subject, thrived at that, and then gone into a career I'd never have considered if I passed, and I might have loved it. Or I could have quit university altogether and gone on an adventure of its own, whether that be working and traveling or maybe just going back to my minimum wage job and having an adventure in my evenings and trying to work out who I am. Then got to know myself better, reset my life and become a completely different person. That sounds kind of exciting. Maybe I should have failed. Another example might be, what if I break up with him? For me, it would have been a him, but it could be a her or a them. A lot of people start uni in relationships and are worried if they will stay afloat, especially if they're long distance. But if I had broken up with him at the time, I might have found out who my true friends were nothing like emotional trauma to create an everlasting bond and work out who the people are that really care about you. Experience what I call a big human experience. When I did have breakups, they were bad, don't get me wrong, but the condition of being completely unearthed, for having the rug completely pulled from underneath you, the feeling of either rejection or wrongness, without having some type of experience like that, you're gonna find it very, very hard to connect with other humans, because that is one of the big human experiences, whether you call it a breakup or a fundamental truth shake-up. An experience like that will enable you to connect with more people, because it's a big thing that a lot of people go through. I'm seeing more connection, more inspiration, and more emotional capacity to deal with future disaster. That's what I'm seeing. And then thirdly, you never know, in the future, find someone better suited to me. I know almost everybody who's ever been through a breakup has been relieved in the end that they have, and they've often gone on to find somebody immeasurably more suited to them, and they can't believe that this breakup ever hurt in the first place. These flowcharts can go on for stages and stages. You can be as imaginative as possible. Maybe you might have a breakup and then move to a different country. All of these things could happen if you were to have this negative experience you are scared of. And in fact, if you draw a flowchart like that and some of these possibilities start sounding more appealing than staying with that person, that can also be illuminating. Just saying. Regardless, I find writing down your worst case scenario cleansing in itself. To have said it aloud, to have shown it on a page, to stick it on your wall, it loses its power over you. It's really genuinely incredible. It's not exactly a set and forget, but it's definitely a flow chart it and sideline it at least kind of situation. So you can get on with the big things, which is working for what you want to do, not panicking about if it goes wrong. It can't go wrong. It can only go certain types of right. The second is to make a hall of fun. Kind of like a hall of fame, a hall of fun is examples of people that help you picture somebody like you in your 20s. A result of coming from a specific geographic location or a community of people, as most of us are born onto and into, is that you often have a very specific example around you of how to live out certain decades of your life. Now, if the examples of people older than you around you are things that genuinely excite you and think that you want to emulate, then what a humdinger, what a lucky person you are. But you might look around and see people who don't have lives like you would want, whether that is settling down early, being in a heteronormative relationship, having babies, working in a certain career field, having a certain outlook on life, enacting certain political beliefs you are slightly questioning at this early point in your 20s. And it's not bad that you might have grown up around people that are different to you and have different principles and life priorities, but it isn't okay if your subconscious brain starts taking that as the medium, mean and mode of what it is to be in your 20s, what it is to be an adult, what it is to grow up. So you can start shifting that limited worldview and grow your own garden of exciting people who live through their 20s and later in ways that you are excited to in some way emulate. This, for example, is my hall of fun. People that I think it would be cool to grow up like, people that are living lives that, while I recognise probably aren't perfect, involve activities or principles that genuinely make me excited and less scared to grow older. Whether you just make a Pinterest board or you print these out and stick them on your wall, having that rebalancing of what is possible is so important when you're trying to envision your own very distinct and very different and slightly uncontrollable future. The third idea is a list of questions. Your 20s are not for solving everything. We are not looking for solutions. We are not looking for you to immediately embody everything you've ever wanted to be in this short decade. What we are looking for is answers, and answers to the right questions. I think it's cool to think of your 20s as an investigative data collecting activity where you are looking for the answers to certain questions, or when you're looking for what to get involved in, what to give your time to, instead of being like, is this going to make me the best person ever? Is this going to lead me to success and wealth and riches beyond my wildest dreams? You could instead ask, is this going to help me answer any of my questions? Questions that I would have asked myself at the beginning of my 20s and are still sometimes struggling to answer now are things like, am I happier in a small town or living in a busy city? Most people have only experienced one of those setups before they turn 20, so at least sampling the other one and trying to work out what genuinely makes you happy is excellent data. Good to know. What is my healthy, happy body weight? Not my ideal body weight, not my BMI, but what is a livable, realistic body weight for my body to rest at, where I am both mentally and physically fulfilled? I'm still answering that question myself, and perhaps there isn't an answer that's constant throughout your whole life, but trying to genuinely work out what is livable and possible and happy and comfortable for you mentally as well as physically is a great thing to focus on working out, especially when the world tries to tell you what that number might be. Perhaps it isn't even a number. You can hear from the depths of 2010 my tiny 19-year-old brain exploding. What kind of people do I thrive around? Not what kind of people do I tend to gravitate towards, not what kind of people match me and are identical to me in every way, but what kind of people do I thrive around? What kind of people give me energy, give me hope, are good for me? Do I need a big group of friends? I'm somebody who loves people and is kind of addicted to making friends and being around people, but is that what's good for me? To split my energies between 10 to 15 to 20 people, or is what's actually good for me to work on like 5 or 4 really meaningful long-term friendships? What does my ideal work day look like? I've talked about this before, but sometimes I think we're led into industries that actually don't have ideal working days for us, and we miss out on the kind of industries or jobs where actually our days would be much better for us mentally and excite us more, even if our long-term career trajectory or fancy job title might not be what our mind's eye first see when we think of the word success. Looking forward at your 20s, and instead of having a to-do list, having a list of investigative questions, you're a detective about your own life, is way more exciting, I think, than feeling like everything has to be achieved in 10 years, or that everything you want to achieve actually is stuff that you need to achieve, or that you are actually excited about the more you get to know yourself. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was made possible by the Gumption Club, who tip me per video to make sure these videos keep happening. Are you worried that you're wasting your 20s? Are you worried about what to wear in your 20s? Are you worried about where to work in your 20s? I have a playlist answering as much of that as I could possibly presume to. This is the box you're looking to click if you'd like to join me in trying to find the answers to those questions. I upload every Monday at UK 6 PM, so if you would like to join me, please hit subscribe so we can make sure we find each other in this big ether soup of the internet again. Frog Snog out.